Hi and welcome to Build Up. My name's Freddie Potter from Engage Up. My guest today spent a decade building software, Accenture, then Sage, and then did something most people only talk about. She walked away and retrained as an accountant on minimum wage with two kids because she was convinced the whole thing could be done better. Antonia Tappin, welcome to Build Up.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So you're a product owner at Sage, an engineer at Accenture. Before that, what actually made you cross over into accountancy?
So I did that thing that kids normally do, is where you just kind of do what your mum tells you, and didn't really have a clue what I was doing. So I just was like, "You're going to university, you're going to do this." So I was like, "Right, I'll do what my mum does," and then it was like, "Right, I'm in IT." Accenture was a big program from university. It was a big feeder into like the graduate program, and it was just like a really good place to kind of get some experience. Really, they've got really good processes and systems, and like to teach you the right way to do things, which was good from a consultancy point of view. But you get into that and you just kind of just get stuck, really, because you just work 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5. I was actually doing some of that in London, some of it in Newcastle, and you're just busy, aren't you? And then I had my first child, and I was like, first time I'd stuck my head up and gone, "Oh, what am I doing?" So I felt a bit disconnected from what I was doing. There was no outcome of what I was putting in. There was just endless tasks and tasks and tasks and tasks. And I just thought, it doesn't fit my personality very well. I need to see what's happening and why are we doing this, because otherwise it was just, well, I'm not just a cog in a machine. So I thought, right, there's got to be something different out there. I'd moved next door to an accountant who had advised my husband on like reclaiming mileage for all the mileage he was doing. He was still based in Reading, but we were living in Newcastle, and he was driving up and down the country every week, and he hadn't put any of that through his tax return. He hadn't, got any of that reimbursed from his employer. So I was like, "Oh, what's that?" So I started, just getting a little bit curious about it. And coming from an IT background, I wanted to have a career that still felt serious. You know what I mean? It was like being a girl in an IT background feels pretty similar to being a girl in accountancy. There's still quite, similar types of people in there. And I just thought, when I started getting into accountancy and learning about like T accounts and ledgers and double entry and all this, and I was like, I can understand like the basics of it, but why is there so much paper? And why is the printer never stop? And why are we manually inputting this? It was just bonkers to me when you come out of one area and go into a new one, and you're just like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fascinating that you heard a story about mileage and had trying to claim it back, and then started to deep dive. I mean, that's not a normal thing to do, right?
It's not, but equally, when you're living with a small business owner, it starts to become your life,
The
right?
norm.
So you
Yeah.
start to hear things about what's happening, and you start to hear things about, well, my invoice hasn't been paid, and that means this, or I have to decide if I can take a dividend this year, or, it was just
Mm,
like the VAT bill's coming out. Have we got enough cash to pay it this month? You hear all these little things just in passing, which you're not
mm.
really involved in, but that's what kind of stokes the curiosity to be like, well, as an employee, you just get paid, right? You get your pay slip and the money comes into your bank.
Yeah.
So you don't know, like, well, how does that work? Yes, I pay tax, but who pays the tax, and how does it connect up into the big systems? You know what I mean? It's all got to connect somewhere, but how does that work? You just don't see it as an employee.
No,
Um,
no, you definitely don't. I mean, they also just think like, the cost of running a business, right? I'm sure now you're obviously on this side. A lot of employees don't really see that, right? Of like what things cost and how much work goes on behind the scenes. Was that the kind of biggest like wow factor for you?
I think the biggest wow factor for me is people will go, I want to do this. I've got an idea. So my idea was like, I can help small businesses get more confident, right? I can help them understand this a bit better, and then they can make bigger decisions or better decisions. And then if they make better decisions, make more money, especially in Newcastle, we get lots and lots of these little businesses getting more successful. That's better for the whole region, right? But if we have, just people, well, what's the biggest weird thing that happens? It's just people have an idea about, I'm going to sell ice cream because I've done it for a while and I'm really passionate about the ingredients that we use and the quality that we use. And I really like seeing the kids, through my ice cream van. And that is somewhere over here. And the money side is all the way back here. And it's connecting the two because not everyone's got the same personality. And that's great, right? That's why we all work together so well. But I'm very analytical and I like the numbers and I like the data. If you ask me to visualize something hugely creative and make it really pretty, I'm probably not your girl for that. But equally, there's plenty of people who are, and I'm kind of trying to bridge the gap between what they have to do versus what they'll have like barriers set up where they're like, no, I don't do numbers. No, I don't do numbers. And it's like, we have to do numbers, but not in a scary way. Like you do numbers at home, right? You pay your rent. So you can pay your tax and you have a bank account for home. So you can have a bank account for business. And it's just, normalizing these things. They're not super scary. They're just a bit different until you get used to them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, coming in fresh from, tech, I suppose, what struck you as just kind of broken about how it was being done?
So in tech, if you're organizing yourself to start off with as like a team, you might have systems in place as the Kanban method where you have lots of little jobs and then they're in a list and then you prioritize them into months, and then you effectively have meetings, stand-ups every day around communication and where are we with these things and is everything moving forward, because you're always working up to like a release date where something's going to go out into the real world. When I first went into accountancy, it's like, yes, we have deadlines. So we don't have releases, but we have deadlines. You have like your self-assessment January deadline. You have your pay-as-you-earn deadlines. You have your VAT deadlines. But when you track that, it was just on a spreadsheet, like a really, really long spreadsheet. And it was like color-coded. And then people would just say, right, well, I'm picking that job off or I'm picking that job off. But there was no prioritization. It was, yes, there was a date order, but that was as far as it went. And that, how many times have you had a spreadsheet that's got out of date with something? So it was, and then it was like everyone worked in their own little silos of like, I always do that client and I always do that one and I always do that one. And then, what happens if a newbie comes in? What do they start to pick up? They've got to fight for something off the list kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, the accountants, obviously, there's so many things changing right now, right? And obviously adopting so much, obviously, especially in the tech side of it. I mean, it's such an interesting time to be involved in it. What do
even like the last couple of years, it's just so fast. And I've been doing this, like 8 years now, maybe 8 or 9 years. I don't know. It's gone really fast, but it's in the last 2 years. And it's like, we're talking about literally at AccountEx last month, I'm talking about learning Zapier to build automatic workflows for agents to work in my business. And I'm like, whoa, this has gone like full circle now. Like, how have we gone? Why are we talking about tech and not numbers? But also what we get in a lot of now, and I'm seeing it across multiple industries as well, but what we get is people will use AI to have a conversation with us. And then we have to almost fight with the AI because AI is good, but you have to be quite specific with what the inputs are to get the right quality answer. They're not necessarily always up to date with like the right tax year, with the right tax rules. Then there might be the percentages are out and stuff like that. So it keeps you on your toes because it's a bit, how do we integrate that for us, for our business to get faster? Because that's the goal. It's just a tool in our toolkit to make us more efficient, but it's still never going to be anywhere like having a meeting with me or one of my team and explaining your business, bespoke to your company.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think every business is going to need a human touch, right? I think it's absolutely a must, and humans will always do business with humans and interact with humans. It's just kind of like the nitty gritty, isn't it? In that sense. Abacus Jack, just what does a client get from you that they weren't getting before? Would you say like, you've obviously got a very interesting background and very inquisitive kind of innovative mind. So, what did he get different?
It's quite simple, really. The main problem, the number one problem that we solve is my accountant never speaks to me. They signed me up and then just disappeared, and I got a bill at the end of it with a tax liability.
Yeah.
Um, we build the customers on a subscription level, almost like a phone contract, to keep it simple. So you don't get this big bill at the end of the year. You break it down monthly so you know what to expect. And the way that we spec it is it's meant to be like this all-inclusive service for a business owner. So it won't be like, oh, here's an invoice for this, and here's an invoice for that, and here's another one for that. It's like at the start, you are going to need, if you're a limited company, a set of accounts, a confirmation statement, and potentially a self-assessment for a director. If you are taking dividends, you might have payroll, you might have VAT. And one price straight through, and then we stick a level of support on it. So if you're on essentials, you get like unlimited email support. So if they email into our team, everyone has a portfolio each, so you have a dedicated person in Abacus Jack. And if you message us, we'll get back to you within like 24 hours.
Mm.
So it feels more personal. We know these customers, we know what they're up to. We've had some of these customers for years, so we understand like what their goals are, but we talk to them and we make it easy to talk to us. The next level of service up is you can do like video calls with us throughout the year.
Nice.
So if it's like, oh, I'm thinking about getting a car, what do I need to know? Then book a call with Antonia, let's talk it through. Or and I'm having issues paying my tax, what do I do? Book a call, let's talk it through, and it's not like we get these nasty surprises at the end of the year, because we just try and communicate really well, so that clients kind of know where they are, and they've got a degree of ownership around their business because they've got that confidence and they understand what to look for. They're all on good systems and they know where to check in those systems to see the key insights that they're going to make a difference to their lives. So that's kind of what we try to do.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I like the whole video call as well. I just think like it's time saved, isn't it? For sometimes, people are busy, right? And it's always, that kind of like video call sometimes can just free up time, face to face. There's nothing better than face to face, right? But sometimes meetings can overrun, and obviously time out the office, all that type of stuff. So that in itself is fantastic. I do like that. And the story about that client who wanted, I know we spoke before, who wanted to take a wage but spent it all on advertising, and how
Yeah.
live data let them have that conversation and adjust. Like, tell me that example.
So we had a client and they had a goal about working in the company, and they wanted to, they've never taken a wage so far, and they had jobs and they wanted to transition from having a job to being in the company because they spend a lot of time in that company building it and doing what they do. So they are pushing the brand, and they have like a SEO meta lady who helps them. And I don't know much about that, but she does what she does, right? And she was advertising for them, and sales were growing, which is good. But then when we took a review point towards like the goal date, it was like, well, can we afford to bring this director into the business? Have we
Mm.
got like the profit level? So to do that, you need to be on a system that has your data that comes in. So we have like automated systems that bring all the sales in. And then we have to reconcile it all and reconcile all the bills, that kind of thing. And then at the end, you have like a nice monthly, quarterly profit and loss statement. And based on that, you can kind of see at the bottom, you go, right, well, what's my bottom line profit? Is it enough for the wage that I'm trying to take? And we got a red flag because we're like, no, that's not meeting the goal. So like, not everyone will have this goal, right? Some people will be like, no, I'm not going to take a wage yet. I'm going to push the business using ads as far as I can. And that's fine, but it's different personal goals. So because they specifically wanted to work in the business, we looked at it and we said, right, you can spot patterns in the data because stuff happens, you can go quarter to quarter and month to month or year to year. And then you can say, right, well, based on last quarter to this quarter, if you've got seasonality as well, you can say, okay, well, this quarter, this time last year, and do some analysis around that. And effectively the advertising spend had like trebled or something, which meant that it's literally like, if you can either have a wage of that or you can spend it on advertising. You can't have both. Because there just isn't enough money yet. So you either have to wait if you're going to keep that level of advertising and grow your sales some more, and then you have to say, right, well, now I can slot in because I can afford both, or you have to reduce that down to afford that. And that's what we've been working with them on, and trying different techniques to balance that, because the way that the ads work as well is sometimes it's quite detrimental if you spend less and then you're not posting as more. It has a bigger negative effect than you would want.
Yeah.
And it's just a balance, right? So it's like little things all the time, but it's having the up-to-date data to show you what's happening now. In the old world, that client would wait until the end of year, and then maybe 6 months after that year end, then they'd get a a financial position for the company. But it's too late then. They can't do anything. They can't change that year then. It's gone, and they're halfway through the next year without any more up-to-date information. And that's why it's having the good systems with up-to-date data that just opens up this whole world of insight where you're like, oh, okay, right, this is what's happening, this is what I need to do.
Yeah, it's I mean, that's the that's the dilemma, isn't it, of a business. What people don't see, it's pay yourself or try and drive more sales, or don't pay yourself, drive more sales. I mean, there's just always there's always something there, isn't there? There's always friction, there's always a problem. It's a good problem to have, right? I mean, I'm sure you come across it with a lot of clients that you have.
Yeah, and it's like they've got good businesses, they've got good ideas, they've got good products, and sometimes it's just a timing issue. It's just where are you in your life cycle, and is it the wrong time of year? Is it the wrong year because we've invested in something else? I was talking to a client yesterday who was like, I'm getting into more of a scale up period of my business. And I mean, he's really smart and he's got a really good handle on things. And he's like, right, I need to build some internal systems to support everything that's happening in the business, so I can step away and do business development, which actually means sales are going to do this. But he knows that and he's planned for that, and that's the journey that we're on with him. So it's understanding what you want to do personally, and is the business going to support that? Because what you don't want to do is end up building yourself like a really complicated job that isn't serving your personal interests. I mean, I built Abacus Jack so that I could take my kids to football training. So it's like now they don't need me to do that as much anymore. But it's one of those things, isn't it? I needed the time. Some people need the money. It's just life, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like everyone's got their need and want and their why, right? Of like why they do things, especially business owners. So, do they want to take the kids to school? Do they want to pick them up? Do they want to take them to football? There's so many different things. Everyone's lives is super busy.
Yeah.
I mean, you're obviously clearly proud of the Northeast. I know, obviously, everyone in the Northeast is it's like a small little village, right?
Yeah.
What's it like building a firm like that, like this, kind of up in the Northeast?
So, well, they say Newcastle's like the biggest village in England, because it's just everybody knows, it's who you know, not what you know. And it's just about building connections. So a lot of the work that we get in has been through like referrals, but then as well, it's like recognizing who we are and what we do and what do we do well, and then telling people about that, and then recognizing that we don't do that or that or that, but having a path for people. So if someone came in and said, I want to set up an employer pension. I can tell you that's really tax efficient, but I'm not going to tell you which pension to go in or about investment risks and stuff like that. But I have got my person who I can send you to, who will talk through all of that with you. So we have our own network, and then through that network, we get referrals in. We give a good service to the people that we've got. We go to events and speak to like other accountants as well, because like there's enough work to go around, and we're all friends. And, you know, we got this annual event where we all have a big barbecue together, and, you know, it's nice, and we're all friends and stuff. And we just talk about really boring stuff that everyone else would be like, oh my God, why would you go to that? But for us, it's like, well, I was trying to do this in Zero the other day and it's driving me mad. Oh yeah, I've seen that. That's really rubbish, isn't it? You know, and it's just funny because it's our world. But yeah, it's just, I think it's trying to find the right business owners. So at the start, we had a business coach in that we knew, and he talked us through finding our ideal client. And then once we knew that, then you can sort of tailor your advice and your advertising towards that. I mean, we've never advertised on Facebook or online or anything like that. We've basically got our website and our Google reviews. And then I started doing some social media a couple of years ago. And that's educational and stuff, but it's not hugely like bringing in loads of clients at the minute. We still get most of our clients through referrals and Google searches. But no, I think people in Newcastle as well, you know, you connect with one person, then it's like, oh, you know that person, and then it just goes on. Like we do some local work with the banks as well. So you've got NatWest in Newcastle have an accelerator program, and we've gone to that for a few years because they partnered with Free Agent, which is the main software that we use, and they help business owners coming in from all different stages, start up to scale up, and those business owners might need help around understanding what business structure to take on, or they might need help on how do I create a forecast for an investment pitch that I'm going on. So you get those kind of opportunities and get to meet people by doing things like that as well. Like this morning I was in with Metro Bank, who were looking to do something similar. And it's building all the time and it's changing all the time, which is exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And just touching on you obviously having a mentor, like a lot of founders, entrepreneurs, kind of like I speak to, they all, they all go down the mentor route, right? And I also, you touched on kind of like an accountant group. I think it's so super important that like I've had a recruitment business for 10 years, and I joined the recruitment group for probably 5 or 6 years. And like you said, there's so much work to go, there is work to go around. And once you start, your peers respect you, and maybe they've got too much on, and they'll pass work your way, and vice versa, and ideas will always get shared. And I just think it's so important for your working community to all be together. There's plenty of enough of around. So yeah, I think for business owners out there, right, you would definitely recommend that.
100%. Yeah, just find other people who are doing similar stuff to you, and like go to your events as well to start off. I mean, when you get really busy, you have to be more selective around what events you can go to. But we make a big thing of like, we go to AccountEx every year in London, and that's a big thing. It's like a 2-day trip, and the whole team comes down, and mind gets absolutely mushed with how much data there is. But when I went one year, I met this girl called Rachel Harris, who's accountancy, and she's got millions of followers on Instagram, and she's been on like ITV, and she's been to Downing Street and all these kind of things, right? So she's like way, way away, away from my little practice in Newcastle. But she's got loads of support as well, because she remembers coming up and she remembers trying to set up her business. And I think she might have a couple of mentors above her, but she's like passing it back. And she's got like a monthly practice owners podcast meeting. So you can go on, she's like videos weekly on the practice owners podcast, because you'll get things that happen in the practice that are unique to an accountancy practice rather than just a business. But you're all kind of going through the same stuff. And then we have like a monthly call, and you can just drop in, and it's free, and you can speak to her, you can speak to other business owners, and you can be like, right, I'm bringing this one question, what's everyone's take on it? But it's just having that, you don't have like a big team. It's not like you're in a big organization, so you haven't got like your breakout areas to go and get a coffee together at lunchtime or something. You're on your own when you're a small business owner, so you have to make that for yourself. So you've got other people to collaborate with, because if you can collaborate, then it gets more creative, and then you can get better problem solving, I think.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. What's your kind of like ideal customer profile then? You know, what's the majority that you take on?
So the main types of clients for us go on the essentials package, which is like that subscription we were talking about.
Yeah.
And we do have like variations below that and above that. But a typical person on that might be like a new or a 3-year sort of like limited company owner.
Mm,
So they might have no employees and it's just them, or they might have like a team of like 5 or 6, and they'd probably be VAT registered. Some of them will be CIS registered. We don't specialize in terms of industry, but we do kind of like, we like tech organizations from our backgrounds, but we also seem to get on well with like, we have a few coffee shops, and stuff like that. But
mm,
generally it's a small business owner with the right kind of like values, almost like being ambitious and curious and willing to
mm.
work with us. And communication is massive when you work with an accountant, because we're always asking you for information and you're always asking us questions, and that's fine. That's how it's meant to work. But if you can't communicate and we're trying to get stuff set up for you and then it drops off because you haven't got back to us, and then we're up against it because you haven't given us what we need, that's when it doesn't work as well. So that's kind of the types of people that we're looking for.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's 6 of you now in total now at Abacus, right? Like,
Yeah.
where do you want the firm to go? Do you have like plans? Or you just kind of see where it goes?
So we've always been quite organic in our growth up to this point, because like I said, I got involved in this and wanted to be in business for myself so that I could have the flexibility to take my kids to football training. My business partner, Andy, he's got 3 boys, but now we're sort of like 6 years in at Abacus Jack and together. And my kids are like 11 and 14, and his oldest, I think, is 16 now, right? So they don't need us as much. So I
Mm,
think it's a good question of like, where are we going to punch onto? Originally, I had a goal because I had a little chip on my shoulder about someone when I was trying to get into this, who I wanted to get as big as she was. And we're nearly there. We've got to grow. I think in 2 years we'll get to that level of turnover. But
mm.
actively at the minute, we've got 6 of us, but next week we've got someone coming in for work experience. We're talking to someone next week about coming in for an internship. And then we're probably going to start recruiting again. So it's growing again. And my immediate problem is that we don't have a big enough office. So I'm trying to sort that out at the minute. Um, Small business problems, right? But
Yeah,
it's getting the right place, because culture is really important to me, because I want it to be a really nice place to work. And that's why we recruit on values, and we make sure that people demonstrate the right values. We can build the skills if we need to, but it needs to be the right person. And because of that, we go in and we do have a laugh together and we're nice to each other. There's none of this, let's go for a tab in the car park and slate each other. That doesn't happen at Abacus Jack. So it's a nice place to work, and I want to keep it like that. And, when I'm thinking about where would we go, it's like, well, what would be the impact on everybody's commute? Do we like that kind of building? Does it look like our kind of vibe? What would we have in that room, and all that kind of stuff? But yeah, I think it's keep getting bigger, but we've done sort of like 30% year on year on year. So if we could keep doing that, then obviously those 30% of this is small, but 30% of that is bigger and 30% of that is bigger.
mm,
So it's still maintaining that level of growth as we get bigger is making us bigger again. And the ultimate goal is to help more businesses in the small east get more in the northeast get more confident with their finances, right? So the more business owners that I can reach, the better it works. It doesn't need to be corporate. We're not trying to be one of
yeah,
those big
yeah.
firms, but
No, I love that. I love the 30% year on year. You know, you've grown that organically. You've never advertised. You've obviously got some great reviews, and a lot of good accountants that I speak to. A lot of their business does come from referral. There is accountants out there that really push the Google ads, and yes, it does work. But the referrals where the most satisfaction comes from businesses like, especially a service business, right? It's, once you get a referral come through, it's just about kind of like getting it and keeping that referral as well, because you've done all the hard work for it, and you obviously, you want to, reap the rewards in a sense.
Yeah, it's just validation, isn't it? That you did a good enough job with the original customer that they want to share that with their friends, which is nice.
Yeah, no, fantastic, brilliant. I mean, yeah, Antonia, this has been brilliant. Thank you so much. Where can people find you and the firm?
So if you search for Abacus Jack on Google, we'll come up, or it's abacusjack.co.uk. We're also on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I hope everyone's enjoyed that. And if there are any small businesses in the Northeast, reach out to Antonia. I'm sure she'll be able to help you out and, get your finances in check. But thanks very
Definitely.
much for coming on Build Up.
Thanks very much. See you later.
Bye-bye.